Hey guys, we are back with another Power Rangers Lightning Collection review. We're taking a look at another Beast Morphers figure, so the current run of the show, something that I'm not all that familiar with, but this guy looks really cool. So we're taking a look at Blaze today, one of the bad guys from the show. We've got him here in our standard packaging for the line, figure there in the big window, and then some fantastic stylized artwork that starts on the front and wraps around, showcasing the helmet for this guy. And then you've got on the back panel the kind of CG rendered shot of the figure in action. So let's do it. Let's pull this guy out and take a look.
And here he is out of the package, our CYBERVILLAIN Blaze figure. So I would go as far as to say that when I initially got this wave of figures, Trini was the draw. She's the big figure when it comes to this wave for me as a longtime Power Ranger fan. But as a toy collector, there is no doubt in my mind that this is the best figure in this wave. This thing is pretty wild from just a design, an articulation, an accessory standpoint. There's really a lot to like about this figure, even if you don't have any attachment to this character, and I personally do not. I do not watch Beast Morphers. I watched the Sentai that this show comes from, but that doesn't really help me with this particular figure. So I'm going in on this one blind, and just at a cursory glance, it's a damn cool looking figure. So let's see what he can do, see how he moves around. There's not too many surprises here because it's still a Lightning Collection figure. So we've got a head that can look pretty far up. He looks a little bit down. You've got a little bit of tilt side to side and then full rotation, of course. Arms go out at the shoulders more than 90. They rotate all the way around. You do have a butterfly joint in there. Bicep swivel, of course. Double jointed elbows, and then you've got hinges and rotation at the wrists. We've got our diaphragm cut, so he goes all the way around, and then we've got our ab crunch, so he goes all the way forward. He goes pretty far back, and then as far as tilt goes, you get him about that far, and then about that far. Legs go almost all the way out, as far as you'd probably need, I'm sure. Kick forward, kick backwards. You've got a thigh cut in there. Double jointed knees, of course, a decent ways back, but he does have some cuffs on his boots that kind of hit a little early. And then you've got rocker and you've got hinges down at those ankles. So he's pretty par for the course when it comes to this line, but that is to say he moves really well because that's kind of the hallmark of this line so far. They are incredibly well articulated, and this guy is no different. Now, as far as the aesthetics go, I don't really know what the deal is with this character, so, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's like a dark, corrupted ranger or something like that, and he definitely does have that look that he belongs in the Beast Morphers lineup. He definitely has that kind of black pants, and then the red, the maroon top, and he's got the little harness going on, but he definitely looks a little bit different at the same time, whereas red and blue Beast Morphers are very cookie cutter in their approach. He is definitely something a little bit extra, a little bit different, and I like the armor pieces that he's got here. As far as like his torso, it looks like it's a little more armored. He's got these rivets and the plating almost, it looks like, on the shoulder pads and on the torso. The silver paintwork on the arms is really nicely done. I don't have any issues there. It's really crisp and clean. This might be one of the few Rangers I've had in a while that I've had no real paint issues on. Everything is really smooth and clean and crisp, and the line work is really nice. The silver really pops. The morpher over here, I assume that's what it is sculpted really nicely. The red stands out quite well, and there's just a lot of little sculpted detail on this figure that is enough to keep him similar but different to the other figures that go into this season. So like the line work on the pants, these kind of pieces that flare out here, his unique boot design, things like that, especially with this belt, and then his harness that is of course part of the shoulder pads here. So this is all one piece, the shoulder pads, the collar that wraps around the back. It gives him, like a football pads look almost, but it's very armor plated feel and vibe, and it works really nicely to kind of differentiate him from the other figures in this show, and gives him that slightly more menacing look too, because he definitely has kind of an evil vibe going on. And that kind of follows through up to the helmet, where you've got these kind of flared armor plates that run around the side with the silver vents, the black lines that run across the head sculpt. That orange visor looks really good, and then of course the silver faceplate really clashes with the other colors and ties it into the rest of the body, into the armor, and it's just a cool looking design. That's the same thing that I said for the figure in general. It's a cool looking design. It lends itself to the evil aspect of this character, but it also makes him stand out from the other Rangers that are, the good guys in this line. So he looks a little bit extra, a little bit more detailed in some ways, but he also just looks cool, and this head sculpt really kind of tops the figure off, no pun intended. Now, as far as accessories goes, Blaze comes with kind of the standard spread for a Lightning Collection figure, which is to say that he has a decent amount of accessories. especially for a Hasbro figure. So to start with, we've got an extra head sculpt, and this head sculpt is interesting because I would go so far as to say that this is probably the best unhelmeted head sculpt we've gotten in the line so far, but at the same time, it's also not exactly there when it comes to the likeness, if that makes any sense. So like that, I think the likeness is kind of off, but just in a general sense, I think this head sculpt is amazing. I think the paint applications on it, the photoreal is incredibly well done. The hair is really nicely sculpted. It just looks great. It's a nice looking unhelmeted head sculpt. Honestly, the first one I've really been halfway interested in using. I'm still never going to, but it's nice. It looks fantastic. I don't have any real complaints, except again that I think the likeness is ever so slightly off in some ways. Again, this is coming from someone who doesn't actually watch this season of the show, so it's just kind of at a cursory glance. He does have some extra hands, so he's had gripping finger, slightly trigger finger style hands so far throughout this video. He does have fists as well, so you can swap out the gripping hands for some fists. Nothing too crazy there. We see that a lot in this line. And then we've got his sword and energy effect. So he's got the same kind of energy effect that the Green Ranger came with. The big, this kind of sword length energy effect. Of course, this one's done up in kind of a fuchsia, hot pink kind of color. And then you've got his sword, which is unique so far in this line. Pretty decent sculpt on it. A little bit of paint work. It's just different, kind of weird looking, but it works really good. It kind of plays up with his armor scheme as well. So you've got his sword, and then you've got whatever this is supposed to be. So it's obviously a briefcase of some kind, and it does open, so you can sort of just pop it apart here, and it's got like a little virus screen in there, and kind of like a control panel on it. It's all sorts of weird stuff. I don't know what's going on with this. I don't know what it's for. I don't care enough to really know, but it's an interesting little accessory. He holds it just fine with the gripping hands. Decent amount of paint on it. Pretty solid sculpt. Size is really nice. So, he comes with a bunch of stuff, really, and he's got a killer extra head sculpt. I'm a fan of this particular energy effect, so there's not a whole lot more I could really ask for on this guy. So overall, there's not many reasons not to buy this figure, unless of course you're only sticking to maybe specific teams or anything like that. If you're like me and you're very much kind of all in when it comes to this particular line, this is an absolutely stellar figure. He looks great, and the design on its own kind of sells the figure there. It's a cool looking design. It's a cool looking Ranger suit. The extra head sculpt is fantastic. He moves just as well as you would expect a Lightning Collection figure to move. He comes with all kinds of accessories, and this is just a really well done figure. I really don't have any true gripes. Of course, the one little thing is that I think the likeness is kind of off on that unhelmeted head sculpt, but that's a nitpicky thing when the sculpt on its own, regardless of whether it looks like him or not, is just fantastic. It's a good looking human head sculpt. So there's a lot to enjoy about this figure. So I'd suggest snatching this one up if you have the chance. So that's going to do it for this look at the Power Rangers Lightning Collection Blaze figure. Let me know what you think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And until next time.